I'm really excited because as a former indie record label owner, as a kid, I definitely looked up to this man and what he laid down and the blueprint for running indie labels and all the great stuff he did. If you looked up OG in the dictionary, you would definitely find this man's name as the definition. He's a hip hop legend and a pioneer. He's also one of the architects of Southern hip hop. He's a full-fledged entrepreneur from sports to books and even to wine. And most importantly, he is a father. So welcome to the show, Jay Prince.
Yeah. Yeah. How y'all doing, bro?
Welcome. This time it's sober champs.
Yeah, we're trying to be on point for our kids.
That's real. It's a time and a place for everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So jumping into it, Jay, we usually like to at least find out kind of what the family dynamic is, how many kids you got, and all that good stuff before we start it off.
Man, I got a 7-piece, man, with no pride.
Nice.
Damn. I was doing the math. I'm like, I know there's 3. I know you 2, Jazz and Jay Jr., and then I know you have a daughter.
Yeah.
But damn, I didn't imagine I was that far off. So,
no, everybody I hugged got pregnant.
Wait, what's the oldest? Like, how young were you in the first one?
Oh man, I started off at 19.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I got it straight toward the end, but I was, like I said, everybody I hugged, they saw stardom coming along, and I hugged them and
they made an investment.
You know what I mean? But I'm a proud parent, man. I'm a proud father, and one of the best blessings I ever got on the planet Earth, man, was my kids.
So how was 19-year-old Jay Prince expecting a child? Like, what was that experience for you? Take us to that moment.
Oh, man, it was exciting. You know what I mean? It's something that I always wanted. I always wanted to be a father. Now, what was surprising was my first 2 was girls, and my uncles, teased me and told me I was a girl maker. You know what I mean? They like, oh boy, you gonna be one of them dudes that don't make nothing but girls. So I shot a double barrel. The next 2, with Jazz and James, they happen to be like 7 months apart. So you can imagine how that went. But yeah, man, it was coming into fatherhood is what actually saved my life. You know what I mean? Because I changed my life because of them. Prior to them, and even in the beginning stages, I was in a mind frame where I just didn't care. You know what I mean? And one of the most important decisions that I made in my life was in the closet. I wrote about it in the Art and Science of Respect, my book, where I had one of my kids in my hand, and it's when I made the decision and I made an oath with the Creator that I was going to stop living in a moment and live in the movement.
How deep were you already at 19 in terms of, like, were you already dabbling in the music industry stuff?
No, at 19, just street, man, just that mentality of, I have to break this poverty curse by all means. You know what I mean? I was just in that state of mind where I got to have this. My mama want a house. I'm willing to die for my mother to have this house. And that's what it was about.
And what was your home situation? I know you talk about your mother all the time, even as far as, like, she's like, it seems like your idol in a lot of regards. What was the household in your upbringing? Because I believe your father was incarcerated. I don't know at what period in your life that happened. Like, what was, the home upbringing for you?
Yeah, I grew up in a single parent home, me and my sister. And at the age of 11 years old, I wrote about it in my book. I lost my sister. She was cut in half by a train track
Damn.
and by a train on a track. And after that, I went to move with my grandmother. My grandmother pretty much raised me most of the way from that point on.
Wow.
Do you think that was was there would there have been a difference being raised by your parents versus your grandparents? Like, oftentimes you see people that raised by their grandparents, they love their grandparents, but their grandparents being older couldn't really control that youthful energy and where it was going.
Yeah, no, I don't think that was the situation where I was concerned. Even though I wasn't living with my mother, she was hands on, and my grandmother was, you know, she gave me freedom, but she was a disciplinarian as well. But I think the ingredients that I had in me, man, I always give it credit to up above because I had leadership qualities where I never allowed, the guys, my surroundings to impose their will on me completely. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like I kept a certain amount of strength and headspace where I didn't do like most of the homies done, which like allowed drugs to enter my system. Everybody was on some type of drug all around me. Uh, I had a leadership mindset where, I knew I wanted to be the one to break the poverty curse in my family. And every time I thought about something taking me away from that, I wouldn't indulge.
You were confident in your identity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, at that age, I don't know if, I don't know what I was confident in,
Right,
but,
right.
all I know is, I put on my shoulders at a young age, I got to be the one to do this. I witnessed a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, poverty. And I'm like, I got to do this. And I remember thinking this way at 8 and 9 years old. So
Wow.
imagine an 8 and 9 year old, thinking that heavy, man.
Mm.
Yeah.
So at 19, and you've got a newborn daughter. How did that feel for you? And I mean, did you feel like, all right, I know what I'm doing here, or I'm going to figure it out, or did you feel out of sorts in terms of, man, I don't know what to do with the baby?
Well, I felt like, I had a responsibility that I had to take care of, that I wanted to take care of. And ultimately, it led me to the decision where I wanted to live because I didn't want, uh, I would think about leaving my daughters and I'm thinking about these perverted people. And I'm like, man, I can't have nobody, playing with my kids no kind of way.
Mm.
So in order to prevent that, then I have to make decisions, longevity decisions to be here for them. And, those are life changing decisions for me, my kids.
And it wasn't too far after you had your first that you got into the music game, right? I feel like it maybe 2 or 3 years. Is that right?
Well, no, it was actually after I had my first, it was probably 4 or 5 years
Okay,
down the line, my early mid 20s,
got it.
yeah, something like that because yeah, I was, I was full blown about to go off the cliff prior to then.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, even the beginning of Rap a Lot, it's almost coming from a fatherly mindset because you're doing that. You're looking after your brother in a sense, right? Because you're trying
Yeah.
to get him to get on the right track to do something different. So I guess that mindset. I mean, do you think that kind of mindset came from your daughter's already being born, and now you're thinking, you're having this different mode of thought?
No, that mindset came strictly from uh, me knowing what he was going to be faced with in the streets.
Got it.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I know he wasn't qualified to be there, and I'm like, you know, he's my he's he's my younger brother, but I wanted to put like a shield of protection on him to not, be in the streets and to do something that he was passionate about and that he loved. He loved to rap.
Oh.
Got it.
You
Yeah.
pardon me. You did you have a day job before you jumped into music? Because I feel like I read somewhere that you were working, maybe in a bank. I don't remember. The internet is full of information that may not be true.
Yeah.
But you had like your 9 to 5 ish, and then you just up and quit. Is that real? Is that how that went down?
Yeah. When I was a senior in high school, I was working at the bank. I
Okay.
would get out of school early to go and work at the bank, and ultimately, it was a place called Colonial Savings, the savings and loans, and they laid me off. They laid the whole department off,
Mm.
and that's when I vowed that I never work for nobody. The rest of my life. I remember going home having a conversation with my mother. I say, Mother, so this the way they do y'all? They
Mm.
build you up, and then they just. I said, what if I had these bills? What if I was heartbroken because I'm like, oh, I don't want to feel this no more.
Mm.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So from that day forward, I never worked for another company the rest of my life.
It was pretty prophetic that you were working at a bank, though.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I was in the vault department. I
Even
was
better.
dealing with, yeah. You know what I mean? So in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna be president of this bank.
Right.
You know, but yeah, that was a shortly lived situation, man. And from there, I had ran away from the streets. A lot of times, my whole life basically, and at that point, I'm like, my mama got to have this house I've been wanting to have all my life,
How,
one way or the other.
how do you keep the streets away from the family? I know it's easy to just say, "Look, Jay Prince ain't nobody coming near the family. Nobody, the streets ain't gonna be around my family." But in
Yeah.
reality, that's that's not always how it is. Like, how did you keep the streets away from the family?
Well, as a provider and as a leader of my family, I had to figure out a way to protect them. So I set up structure, I set up rules. You know what I mean? And even to the point, even though like I was in the music industry, I didn't even allow rap to enter my household
Mm.
until a certain period of time
Mm.
because I understood as a kid. I understood what had corrupted my mind and what aged me beyond my years, and that was me having access to all kind of X-rated, you name it. So as a parent, I'm like, okay, I have to protect them until they reach a certain age where they can handle and consume these different things. And up until then, I'm gonna protect them to the best of my ability, and that's what I done, man. I mean, against the rules of my own parents, my own, surroundings and different things. I stood on that real heavily because I understood the stand I was taking, and I understood that at the end of the day they would appreciate it, even though they didn't at that time.
How do you police that, or I guess did you attempt to, or was your structure so, I guess, sound that it kind of had its own traps kind of baked in?
Yeah, well, at the time, I had a helpmate. You know what I mean? I was married, and we didn't have mixed messages. We were two like-minded individuals, and we had a strong foundation, man, and anything like I give you an example. My own mother at the time, I would let my kids go to my mother house with the instructions. I don't want them watching, rated R movies, because, once again, I understood what that done to me, having access to some of everything. So I'm trying to, protect their virginity, from a whole different perspective,
Right.
the inner peace.
Yeah.
And my mother decided, that okay, y'all don't tell your daddy, but
Mm.
y'all can watch this. So I unplugged the whole situation where they can go over there
Mm.
without me. You know what I mean? Because I meant business about what I said, and anybody who wouldn't implement, what I asked of them where my kids were concerned, didn't get a second chance at doing that to me after that first
No
time.
matter who it was, and we know how highly you regard your mom, so
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
major.
that's
yeah.
crazy.
Don't matter who it is or was.
I
Yeah,
like you, Jay.
yeah,
I'm kind of that dude. Like on this
yeah,
podcast, I'm
yeah,
the tough guy, I guess, as far as how I deal with
yeah,
my kids. I don't do too many second chances, and
yeah,
I'm thoughtful about how I lay down kind of instruction because I
yeah,
foresee some of the peril that I think you do in how you
yeah,
operate with your kids. So that's cool.
yeah. No, as fathers, we have to be that way, man. Even though it's not popular, you know what I mean? Because everybody allowing any and everything to go. But for those of us that's not with the any and everything that go crowd, then we understand the importance of protecting our loved ones and giving them, a proper push start to be able to be good people, man, without being corrupt by some other.
Talking a
I,
little bit about that.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, E.
Yeah.
And I was going to say this for later, but I think it's a perfect segue. You've built and you continue to build this empire, right? You are a household name anywhere you go. I mean, nobody can pretty much nobody gets to Houston without you, knowing, or if you care to know, you'll know. So your kids, some of them are in the music industry. I don't know how many of them, but for sure I know two. Right, your two sons, your two boys. They It feels to me from what I've researched about you, it's not like you've handed them very much, if anything at all. It's almost like you put them in a situation where they have to earn it. I'm curious. A, I'm curious if that's true, and B, how do you formulate that, right? Because we all have come from humbler beginnings and kind of where we are now in life. And when you get to a certain point, it's so much easier to just hand shit over to your kids because you don't want them to have to deal with any of the shit that you had to deal with that was uncomfortable. But it seems like you found a way to kind of help them earn their stripes without it having to be like a silver spoon sort of setup. So can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. That was real important to me to use the method of balance where that was concerned. I understood like the pros and cons of my upbringing. And for example, I understood the importance of my work ethic. Someone not doing things for me and allowed me to use my work ethic from a physical and mental point of view, which meant that I had to physically work, that developed a certain character in me that caused me to not be scared of physical work. And I also had to do mental work, you know what I mean? Definitely in school. And, I wasn't a big fan of school, but uh, I understood the importance of that, and I wanted to share the best of both worlds with my kids. You know what I mean? I didn't want to raise up a kid where they're just looking forward to just eating fish with me and not knowing how to fish. So I had to pour all of that into them, but I also it was important for me to allow each of them to be who they wanted to become, and to allow them to know that I'm in support of whoever you want to become. It's not about you trying to implement what I've done, or be, follow my footsteps in that capacity. Whoever you want to be in life, you have my support at being that person. I felt that was important, and it ended up being important. But I think just balance, man. Where my kids, I share this with you because I shared it in my book. Um, Education was real important, because I understood that two things that really hold us back in life is a lack of education and bad habits. So with that being the topic, I tried to push all of them toward education, and some finished college and some chose not. to finish college because they didn't like school. You know what I mean? And they chose not to go that journey. I was one of those. You know what I mean? Where I didn't go to college, and I made that choice. But at the end of the day, I had a goal as a parent that I wanted to do for each of my kids, and I was able to accomplish it. And that was buy all of them homes and new cars to give them the proper push start.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I felt like, I'm a blessed individual. I'm gonna give you all this push start as well as equip you with the proper things, knowledge and wisdom to be able to take care of it. And I accomplished that, man, and that made me feel good as a parent. And I don't think I did too much, but I think I done enough, and the message was delivered properly.
I think you just set
Yeah.
a real high bar for all of us, right?
Yeah. Fucked up my whole world just now, Jay.
You talking about balance. Um, I'm curious, how was the work to family balance? Like, how did you balance? Like, I'm fairly a new father. I got two young kids, and I'm
Yeah,
just my oldest is 2.5, and my youngest is 6 months. So I'm just starting to figure out how to balance my work and family life, which has been,
yeah,
pretty interesting. How did you
yeah,
balance? Because you're very hands on. You're an entrepreneur. Like, it takes a lot to do, what you were doing and are doing. How did you balance
yeah.
that?
And damn, Rap a Lot
Um,
released a lot of albums, man.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, once again, I have to give a lot of credit to my ex-wife, because she done a lot of that balancing while I was gone. But I was always conscious to the extent where I wouldn't allow a big day to go by, where my kids was concerned, where I wasn't present.
Mm.
Other words, when there was something that went on special in all of their lives, whether it was graduating in kindergarten, Daddy's Day, or whatever it may have been, I made myself available. I made myself available majority of the time to sit down with them and eat and have conversations at dinner. I understood that money, like I tell everybody, I don't love money, but I like it so much until it's hard to tell the difference. But but I also understood that when it came to my family and money, it had to take the back seat in a lot of different things, because it was so much more money that I could have made and embraced the opportunities if I was the type of person that wanted to put my family on the back burner. I'm an entrepreneur, so I like working. I like getting paid. I just had to do everything, man, with balance. And I think that's the key word, being a parent, being an entrepreneur, because we have passions. We still have things we want to accomplish. But I think when you do it with balance, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
I
How
dig
do
it.
you, so talking about being an entrepreneur, as it pertains to kind of showing by example to your kids. I mean, obviously you did well in the music world. You've done well in the sports world. I mean, you've got your own island, so that's a that's a nice piece to look at. You've got your new wine, Loyalty. So like this deep in the game and being accomplished, what I guess what continues to drive you? What would drive you to start your wine line, and how do you show that to your kids as like, hey, you can do whatever you want. You can, if you have an idea, you can make it happen. How do you show that to them to kind of put that fire in them as well?
Okay, all of their life, I tried to be an example before them by letting them know more is called than talk. And they watch me accomplish and do one thing after another. You know what I mean? They actually had an eye for. And along the way, I would ride them with me and explain things to them. So it wasn't a situation where I wasn't teaching them along the journey.
Right.
And that was one of the ways that my son Jazz discovered Drake, because I had him at the in the rap a lot offices. I had him in the marketing meetings. I had them listening. When I spoke about the word buzz, how important the buzz was. Every week I was talking to the different street teams around the world asking about the buzz. So one of the key words he used to like capture my attention where Drake was concerned was he buzzing, daddy. He buzzing. So that came from me being example, as a parent, and letting them learn and work along the journey, and not leaving them at home, or not uh, teaching them how to fish.
Mm. You talked about the there was money owed to your son given the discovery of Drake and that whole situation with Cash Money, and you mentioned on Drink Champs recently that that was a resolved issue, right? And so
Yeah,
that being such a, and it sounded like it took a while, right? That wasn't like a overnight kind of situation that got resolved.
a process.
Right. And so I'm curious about the learning for the teaching opportunity there for your son, right? Because your son discovers Drake.
Yeah,
You weren't really feeling Drake at the beginning. He had the knack,
yeah,
he found the talent. It worked out well. Your son kind of didn't really get his just due. Dad comes in and kind of helps the situation. How do you take those opportunities? And I'm sure throughout the process you were giving him gems, but like, what would you say were like the big lessons that came from that you think he's taking from that whole situation?
I think one of the biggest lessons of that journey was to listen a little closer to me in the beginning,
Mm.
Mm,
because a lot of what took place there wouldn't have taken place if he would have totally listened to me in the beginning. Said, I don't want you just hanging out there on the road with Lil Wayne like you're a fan or something like that, and then you come back, broke. I say, you go to Lil Wayne and let him know that your daddy gonna give you some money and you want to start a joint venture deal with him, a 50-50 deal, because you need to be focused on something other than just partying and trying to see how many girls you can catch on the road. And when he done that, it was understood that it was a 50-50 deal. And Taz, his manager came and sit with me. That was real clear verbally. But since he didn't, he was happy about that, but he wasn't totally, uh, following my lead the way I would have liked for him to have followed. Some things kind of got lost in the shuffle, and they decided that, okay, Drake is really getting hot right now, and we'll just give him a little finder's fee and not allow him to be, have no copyright ownership or none of that kind of business, right? So, long story short, that wasn't going to go down on my watch,
mm,
even though the paperwork and everything was done. So I had to go in and undo that. You know what I mean? This before even getting to the cash money situation. This was outside of cash money.
mm,
So after I went and undone that and made sure, okay, this is gonna be like we agreed on it, then of course I had to deal with the other piece. But once again, it all goes to the foundation that was laid and not allowing me to put it together the way I would have liked to in the beginning. So the lesson, I guess the lesson and the message of that whole uh, journey was to I proved to them that following my directions will would make life much easier for him.
You think it's
I
clear to
can't.
him now?
Huh?
You think it's clear to him now?
Oh, I think it's real clear. I think it's very clear because he had to. He went through some things that I purposely wanted him to feel and go through
All right.
because that's the way it is in life. You know
Trial
what I
by
mean? When
fire.
you yeah, when you don't you make choices, there's consequences with the choices that we make, whether they're good or bad. You know what I mean? So he had opportunity to see the importance of doing the proper paperwork and doing business the way it's supposed to be done versus handshakes, getting distracted by, all the things that can distract you. He understood that it took quite a while for him to reap the benefit of his labor.
These bars are being set so high here. Teach your children a lesson by signing Drake to Cash Money and Young Money, creating joint venture deals.
No, no, no. But the lesson was taught. Think about the lesson that was taught to get Drake.
No,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah, when you had to sweep the floors in Rap A Lot, when you had to, hear these conversations when you was cleaning the bathroom up, so you had access to power, even though you wasn't, it was a lot of time you was just in the building. And that was the thing. That's what I want to teach him. When you have access to power, figure out a way to leave with some power. You know
All
what I
right.
mean? I don't believe in having access to it, and I'm coming back with no kind of wisdom or nothing.
Right. Just because you're going to come in and inherit the power or inherit a certain level of respect from what your family laid down, you still have to learn and fail and be able to do it on your own, right?
Yeah, because you won't know how to keep it. Like if
All
you
right.
don't learn the real lessons of life, then one will give you some, and somebody will trick you out of it because you didn't get the meat and potatoes of the lesson. And that's knowing how to keep it. That's why the word said, "A fool and his money will soon depart." Because if there's no wisdom with the money, it's a matter of time before it all evaporates.
Right. I mean, it goes back to what you said. You could set them up with the crib and the car, but the real important part is them keeping that and moving, and that just being the foundation for them to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's a question, and E, I'm asking on your behalf. 'Cause so through our different episodes, I mean, E mentioned he's a young father, and his
Oh,
kids
I
are
have
young.
young kids.
Yeah, and he's going through a situation of jealousy between the kids, even though they're young right now with his daughter.
Yeah.
I'm assuming with your children, you've probably experienced different levels of jealousy between them. Do you have any gems to share in terms of how you dealt with that kind of situation or those feelings with your kids?
Oh yeah. It's important to be an example before them, and you let them know that there's no difference where any of them are concerned where you are concerned. You know what I mean? In other words, I let it be known, I let it be seen that, I don't love none of my kids above and beyond the other. And I didn't allow no woman to set no different standards where that was concerned. I made sure that that message was clear coming from the woman because a lot of times, if we don't watch our surroundings, uh, a woman would treat one differently than the other. And I experienced that, and that's one of the reasons I got rid of her, because a lot of things take place when we're not looking. And my daughter explained to me about some things that was taking place differently when I wasn't looking. And character is who you are when nobody's looking. So
Facts.
therefore, I had to balance that scale. You know what I mean? It's important to balance the scales, to the extent where your kid know for a fact that no matter what the surroundings may say, my daddy have shown me by example that he loved both of us the same. He didn't take me to the store and bought her some and didn't buy me some. He didn't, when we sit at the table, one ate and I didn't eat. You know what I mean? You don't give them these reasons, or you let them see that that don't exist. You know, some things just, you know, as a child, you know, they think as children, but at the end of the day, long as you not, as a parent, we're not guilty of that charge, that makes all the difference, because they'll catch back up with the truth, you know, the more mature they get,
All right.
as long as we're not guilty with the charge.
I
Amen to
got
that.
Yeah.
I got a wrap a lot question before we start to wrap it up, and just from my own kind of nerd knowledge. I mean, back in the '80s, I bought Making Trouble when it came out at the record store, so I was hip to rap a lot early on. And two of my favorite rap a lot albums were the albums from OG Style and the Convicts. And I'm curious what you thought about those albums, and if you have any thoughts about those groups.
I think, you know, both of those guys, well, OG Style members have passed, and 3-2 of the Convicts
Right.
have passed. I think those guys was before their time, man, meaning that they was, you know, highly, those guys was like real talented. But I think they should, to me, those albums should have been much bigger than they were. So I think they was before their time, but I really enjoyed the creation of those albums, man. I got a lot of memory where they are concerned.
Yeah, you guys found a mode of infusing like kind of East Coast style break beats, but then you had the Southern blues and soul
Yeah,
instrumentation and
yeah,
everything in a lot of those releases.
yeah. We was trying to find our identity back in the beginning.
Yeah.
So we had like, you know, a lot of different cooks in the kitchen.
So
Yeah.
so you went from music to boxing. Now you're venturing out into alcohol. Well,
The
wine,
wine.
wine in
Yep.
particular.
Spirits.
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 There you
There you
go.
go.
There you go. That's the category.
Which
What,
happened to be a favorite thing of fathers and mothers across the world. Is spirits.
this
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
What led you to that? Like, what was? I mean, obviously it was a good business opportunity. Otherwise, I don't think you would jump in. But like,
Yeah.
what was the impetus?
Well, you know, eventually, uh, one day it's a doctor by the name of Dr. Red Duke that comes on once a week. I think he used to come on. He was a surgeon. Uh, he would come on in the afternoon and he would give health tips. And one day he was talking about, you know, a wine and the benefits of drinking wine and how it was good for your heart and how you know, good for your blood and the antioxidants, you know, that's in it, all these different things. And, you know, it got my attention. And in my whining downtime, I decided to, you know, sip on a little wine. And I start liking a little wine. And ultimately, you know, I found myself visiting uh what's the name of that place? Napa Valley.
Yep.
And I had opportunity to like look at vineyards and deal with it from a business perspective. I was thinking about even purchasing a vineyard. So I got a, you know, behind to look at the business side, and bam, that did it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay. And of course, you know, I wrapped that name loyalty around it, and there we have it, the loyalty collection today.
So where do people find it before we get out of here? Because we can't just tease people and then they can't get it.
Yeah.
So where
Yeah.
can they
Well,
access it?
right now you can get it. On my site. You know what I mean? At J Prince Respect, my Instagram. You can punch the link and order it, or you can get it on Loyalty Wines Instagram. But after December the 21st, you know, I got 18 wheelers right now heading y'all direction. You know what
Okay.
I mean? You're all the way from Paris, so it's gonna be in stores around the world real soon.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Mr. Prince, man, it was a pleasure. We could have talked for way more because I know you got a lot of gems you could lend us dads, but we're going to let you get, I'm sure you got pressing things going on.
Probably have some wine time.
Yeah.
Wine down time.
We're going to have
Hey,
the kids whining right now. You're going to sip some, so enjoy that.
yeah. It's been fun, man, and different. You know what I mean? You don't have many shows that talk about, parenting and different things like that. So I enjoyed this, and I hope that I can help somebody along that journey.
Definitely did, man.
Appreciate
Thank you,
you,
Yeah.
brother.
man.
All
Appreciate you.
Glad
good
to be
love,
back.
bro.
Thank you, Jay.
All right, bro.
All right.
All right.
Peace.